Tim's American Beauty was made by Robust Tools, America's premier lathe manufacturer. Quality hardened tool rests and live centers too. Robust. Built to turn wood. Enjoyed for a lifetime.
Thompson Lathe Tools, made by a woodturner, for woodturners.
So the question is, how are we going to mount this on the lathe if I took out the little blue wheels, right? Or little blue spacers? Well, I'll show you. Okay, I'm going to make a deal with Brian. He gets $1 every time I call the grinder a lathe during this show. I think he's up to about $6. Okay, so how are we going to replace the Arbor shaft of the spacers that went in here? Well, I have a buddy, Don Geiger, who is a good wood turner, but he's also an even better inventor, and he likes sharpening. So he's come up with some of the stuff you're going to see today. And this is a CNC milled shaft that is a perfect fit for in here. I mean, this is to some really nice tolerances. So that fits in there beautifully. It's metal, so there's no gaps, no nothing, no wiggliness. There's no ability for this thing to get screwed up. But we're going to put it on the lathe. However, we're going to have to balance it once it goes. Another $1, Brian. We're going to have to balance it once we get it on the grinder, because no matter how well made this is, how well made the grinder is, there's always a little bit of fudge factor. You might get lucky, slap it on there, everything's going to run true. But if the flange is a little bit out of shape, or if the shaft is just a little bit crooked, or if this is just a tiny bit off, that little bit of variance will make a difference in your grinding. So one of the cool things that came with these little inserts here is this amazing little kit. We got the garage sale dots, and believe me, they actually come in handy. Actually, I'll keep count of how many times I call a grinder a lathe with those right there. But Don also included these in here, and they look like the protectors you put on a toilet seat. But anyway, this goes right on here, and we're going to mount that on there with some spray mount adhesive, and then we're going to put this on the grinder, and I'll show you why that is there. So back over to the grinder. So set this down. I'm going to use some 3M spray adhesive to hold this on. One trick with this, I always take anything I'm going to spray and put it down in my trash can like so. And then I can just spray it like that. I don't have sticky now all over my floor, all over my tabletop or anything like that. I'm throwing the sticky away the next time I empty out my trash can. So we're going to grab this. We're going to center it on here on the wheel like so. Ha! I noticed that yeah, their label's a little off center, or it wasn't cut round. So anyway, that you don't have to be perfect. It's okay. It's on there like so. So we're going to take this, put it in here. Now watch how this goes over here so nicely. And if you can see it from here, move the trash can out of my way. See how that pushes in, and look how clean of a mating that is. There's no gap, no nothing. So I'll take this flange and put it on here. We're going to put this on, and what we want to do is we're going to tighten this the way we would have it if we were going to be using it. So it's about 8 to 10 pounds of foot torque. So that's about it. It's right where it starts pinching my thumb up in there, and that feels about right. Okay, so we got to move over here. Now I'm going to grab, this is part of my Wolverine sharpening system. We'll talk about the sharpening system in a bit, but we have talked about them in the past, so you're probably familiar with it. This is just, any grinder you get will come with a platform of some sort, but that's why that actually the thumb wheel is here. That's where it attaches to on these, but I really advise that you go out and find yourself an aftermarket system, because they're much sturdier usually, because it's just like a little add-on that the company gives you when you get the grinder. But I'm looking at this. Let me get, here we go, borrow a pencil right here. So I'm really surprised. This is looking good. But watch the wheel here and the pencil tip, and you can see they're just the slightest amount of back and forth, right? Okay, this is kind of like a crapshoot, because I actually tested this to make sure I knew what I was talking about yesterday. And when I put this on here, I had a much bigger wobble. Well, I think what the deal is the flanges. The flanges are just a little bit out around somewhere, so it depends. You can put this wheel on here, and if it's way wobbly, first thing I suggest is just loosen it, rotate the wheel and the flange different direction, tighten it again, and move it again and move it again. But the real test here is why we have that white sheet here, is I'm going to trade sides with Brian here. I'm going to put my face shield on, because anytime you're working with one of these new wheels, you want to just make sure you're safe. Something could go wrong, and you just want to make sure your face is covered. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the pencil right here. There's the edge of the paper. I'm going to turn this on. Remember us being safe? Let's go ahead and plug the thing. Okay, I got to plug that back in. Okay, now we're good. Okay, get back here and turn this on. And the paper is obviously out around. It's not the lathe, or the another dollar grinder. But I'm just going to touch this lightly. Here, touching lightly. So I'm going to stop it. And one trick I figured out while I was going through this whole process was, it takes a long time for a grinder to stop if you use a grinder. You know that. This is actually a wheel that cleans off sandpaper and stuff like that. I just take it over here to my other wheel and push it against it, and just friction-wise it slows it down really well. That's kind of handy. By the way, I have a 46-inch grit wheel that from Norton I'm going to put on here, but it's on back order. But I wanted to go ahead and do this and share with you guys today. So anyway, let's look here. And okay, there we see. I did it very lightly. Get my hat off so I can see here. Okay, there is the pencil mark. See how light that is? I should have probably pushed a little harder. But it only goes from here to here. So that's telling me that this thing's pretty out around. It doesn't look it, but it is. So we have to start changing the direction of the wheel going this way. Now there's two ways a wheel can be out around. It can be out around this way, and it can be out around this way. So it's, you know, a loop coming like this. We're going to address this one first, and then we're going to address the one where it goes in and out next. Okay, I'm stacking up my sticky dots, and just for grins, my instinct tells me I'm going to go with 4. These are paper. They're super thin, right? I mean, so we're not doing a lot to this. But that's why he provided these dots, because they're the perfect size for making this work. I'm going to grab myself a couple extra things, because we're going to have a little bit of an issue getting this done on both sides. So anyway, so I've got my sticky dots piled up, but I need to, oh, I'm cleaning up ahead of myself. Now what we have to do is, look at this, unplug, of course. Now come over here, and again, it's not that much pressure on there. So we're going to loosen this out so I can slide this out a ways, right? Now we're going to take our stack of 4 dots, make an offer, and put it to where the flange kind of goes right across the center. Are we done? No. Because with every yin, there's a yang, and we've got to go to the other side, which can be a little problematic. So what we want to do is pull the wheel back now so we can get into the other side of the flange. And by the way, that line I drew runs right here, and the dead center of that line is right there, right? So these dots are straight across from that. You want to make sure you do that. That's why you have the line. It's helping guide you as to where you need to put in the little shims that we're making. So back on the other side, we're going to have an issue in that that's a real tight spot to put this in there, so you got to use something. So I've got a little carving tool here. I'm just going to stick it on the edge like so. And now we're going to rotate this exactly 180, like so. So now I'm on the opposite side. Going to put that in place, and then I'm going to take a really tiny turning tool just to push that across. And then when I push this in, you don't want to turn any of the flanges or anything. Now it's pushing on there. So we're going to tighten this back up, and then we're going to run the wheel and try the pencil trick one more time. So let's plug this back in again. And one thing about this line, where is it, that I put on here, it was pretty light, but I did these little end marks here. That's the way I'm going to keep track of which line was first in case this starts going south on me. At least I know which one that was. Don actually suggested use different colored pencils, but I haven't had any colored pencils since I was about 5 years old, and they were crayons. So anyway, we're going to turn this on, get speed going again, and I'm just going to come a little bit to the side of that line and push. Okay, and stop her. Get my rubber brake out. Okay, now let's look at that line. Woo! Isn't this awesome? Okay, here's our old line, right? Here's our new line. You can see it all the way to here, and you can see it all the way to here. That is pure success right there. If you're anywhere from like here to here with a gap, you're balanced very nicely this direction. You could fight it and try to make it perfect, but I bet you if I put in one more sticker on this side and one on this side, I'd probably be a little bit too far. So, I mean, we're within thousandths of an inch of where we need to be. That's great. So the next thing, we're going to tack this end. Now, I went ahead and put the side back on because the next thing we're going to do is address this. One thing you didn't see me do while it was off camera is it's recommended to do, boy, I got some verbiage going today, don't I? To run this for 10 minutes straight. Walk away, just let it go 10 minutes straight. It's the last safety check you do, because if there's something wrong with this thing, it's going to happen during that time. Because before you approach this side, you just want to make sure everything's nice and good. The other thing is, don't forget to take off the white disc, because be like me, you have to take the side back off and do it all over again. So anyway, one of the things Don provided me with that I thought was really cool, and I've had this for months and I've been using it, is his Geiger's trueness Grand Slam. Got to talk to him about his titling techniques, but it's still it's an interesting system. This is a diamond point up here, and this is how you dress your wheel on your lathe. Come on, another dollar on your grinder. Because I'm sure you're all familiar with this type of dresser for a grinder, and it's just an aggregate of little diamond pieces on there. And so when you get enough metal built up on your wheel, or your wheel's a little dished out or something, you want to come up with this thing, put it on your tool rest right here and go back and forth and get all the crap off of there so you have a clean stone again. It redresses the wheel basically, so it exposes new cutting particles, so it cuts cleaner. All that metal gets inside there and it builds up. The problem is this has no stability. It's like a turning tool, so if you're off this way, that's off that way. If you're this way or whatever, it doesn't truly dress the wheel to make sure that it's completely straight. And boy, it is so close here, but it is microscopically off a little bit here as I'm spinning this. And that's where something like this works, because this bar here, which is adjustable for whatever size tool rest you have down here, this goes up against it. It's just the same technique as, remember when I'm using a roughing gouge, I put my finger up against the tool rest? So when I slide this, it is a straight movement. It is perfectly in line with where my tool rest is. It's perfectly in line with where my Wolverine system is. So it's going to make this exactly parallel or perpendicular. Depends on how you look at it. But anyway, the way this works is I can spin this little knob here and it advances that there. So what we want to do is bring it up here, and I'm just going to run across, and it's not touching. So I'm going to advance it a little bit more. Now it's touching. Okay, but it's not touching here. So see, that tells me this is not quite, I think the term's concentric to where it's going this way. So I'm going to take my mask and put it on for this little bit. We're going to pull this away, and we're going to turn this on and let it get up to speed. And you can hear it going up to speed. You want it up to speed because you want the full strength of the grinder working for you. So I'm going to come up here, and if it doesn't touch, I'm going to keep sliding. I'm going to back it off just a little bit. Okay, there we go. Okay, come back here again. Okay, we're going to advance it now, just a 1/16 of a turn. And slide it. Come back again. The way this is angled is you want to push into it. So the diamond is doing the cutting there. You're not pulling against how it's mounted. And you want to do this several passes until you stop hearing that sound. And it makes a little bit of dust, so if you're moving a lot of this, you ought to put on breathing protection. Okay, but I want to hear that sound all the way across. We're still not making contact on that corner, but as I push, the other thing you should do that I didn't do is put some WD-40 or something and clean up this tool rest so everything slides smoothly. There we go. Gonna do a little more. There. Now we're making contact all the way. I might have turned that more in a 1/16. We want to go till we just have an even sound all the way across. And this is a little sticky. There we go. Now you don't want to do what I just did, which is drag it back across it. I want to bring it back each time. And Don might say you might be able to do it. I don't know if he does. I can't remember. But anyway, there we go. And the slower you go, the cleaner the surface. If you go really fast, you're going to have little tiny grooves, which make it actually rougher. It's one way of dressing the grade of the wheel to make it a little coarser or a little finer. But there we go. So that is set up and ready to rock and roll. Yeah, I love seeing those sparks on my lathe. Heck, come another dollar. Grinder. This is working beautifully now. This is actually the smoothest my grinder has ever run. Oh, I'm tickled pink with this. And we're not going to get into it because we're out of time, but there's all sorts of systems you can put on here for jigs, and I've been using a Wolverine for a long, long time. But Don also makes, it's called the ProSharp Spectrum system. It's a very neat modular system that accurately puts this back in place for any time you're wanting to do a gouge. And I really like it, but I'm going to be trying it out for the next few months, so I'll let you know how it goes and what I think about it. But anyway, that is all I know about a grinder, so I hope to help you learn a little bit about a grinder. So until the next time on Wood Turning, keep grinding.
Tim's American Beauty was made by Robust Tools, America's premier lathe manufacturer. Quality hardened tool rests and live centers too. Robust. Built to turn wood. Enjoyed for a lifetime.
Thompson Lathe Tools, made by a woodturner, for woodturners.